Greetings and thanks for joining me for this solo chat. I'm Debbie Talbert Duggar, the author of Writing Solo. Chicks on 66, that historic Mother Road that has lured travelers for years now, will see 40 women riders, most of them on vintage motorcycles, come June. I'm speaking with Karen Andrea. She is the founder and president of the Riveter chapter of the Antique Motorcycle Association of America. And she's going to tell us all about this historic ride happening this June. So lean in and listen as I speak with Karen Andrea. Karen, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. It's quite the pleasure.
I am so excited about this ride you have coming up, and I'm not even going on it, but
well, why not?
well, you know what? I would love to, but my travel plans for June have been set for a while now. And I just hate it that I can't do something like this. But you're here today to talk about Chicks on 66.
Yeah.
And that's coming up when? What's the date?
June 11th through the 25th.
Okay.
2022. So this coming June.
Now, you are a fairly new chapter, right? The Riveter chapter. Will you explain that to me a little bit?
Yeah, well, the idea for the ride came around first, and I knew that, I was talking to some friends, and they were like, "Oh, if you go, I want to go," and it kind of ballooned into this thing that was bigger than just like a few friends running Route 66 together. And so I knew if I was going to have other people on the ride, that I was going to have insurance. There was going to be some kind of legal waivers and things like that I was going to have to handle. And I wasn't really sure how to do that. So I've been an AMCA member for probably 4 years or so. And I called Keith Kaiser, who's the executive director. And I said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing," gave him the Cliff Note version. "Just want to know if you can give me some names or something, some people." And I figured he'd give me a couple of names or say, "I'll email them to you later. Good luck, have a nice life." And it turned into this conversation. And he said, "Well, if you do it through the AMCA, through a chapter, then you're under the AMCA umbrella. And so you don't have to worry about getting event insurance and all that, which is very expensive and difficult to get and whatever."
Right.
So,
and hold on, for people who don't know what AMCA is.
Antique Motorcycle Club of America.
Right.
So they promote the vintage bikes. They support riders. They've got a lot of structure and networking around the vintage bikes, which is great. I've got 3 old ones, and I've really gotten a lot of help through the AMCA. Just from people that I know, and also from people that I don't know. When I rode out to Utah, I put an SOS on the AMCA page because I had some mechanical issues, and I knew with 38,000 members that no matter where I was in the country, there'd be an AMCA member within 100 miles of me,
Awesome.
And so I actually had to do it twice, and twice AMCA members came and helped me fix my bike. So anyway, back to the chapter. So then he suggested, "Well, why don't you form a women-focused chapter of the AMCA?" Because the chapters, there are a lot of women in the AMCA, but they tend to a lot of them tend to take a back seat, or they just don't get the press, I guess, or whatever, the notoriety, the interest, the notice that men do. On the one hand, on the other hand, there are people like me and Tara Lynch, who has been active in the AMCA for really long, much longer than I have. We work on our bikes and we do stuff, and we get a lot of attention for working on our bikes, because, a lot of people, men and women who own vintage bikes don't. So we get a lot of attention for that. But, in terms of like promoting women and helping women and connecting women, like it took me a couple of years to find Tara. So like just to connect the women together and create a place where we can be and support each other and get to know each other. I was like, well, that sounds like a cool thing. So we'll do the chapter, we'll do the ride through the chapter, and there you go. So so that's how that all happened.
Well, and it's great because that's exactly why I'm doing the solo chats too, so that more women can connect with women who are doing things like you are doing. Now, I noticed on your website, you said 40 motorcycles. So are you limiting it to 40 registrants?
I'm gonna try to, just because it is the first big ride I've ever put together. It's the first event, and I've had a lot of support. I mean, a lot of support. We've gotten internally, just my committee is great. My planning committee is great. And then outside, we've got sort of fairly soon after we announced everything, we got a huge help up with sort of planning and getting advice, and also getting sweep support from Jason Sims, who owns the Motorcycle Chase and Cannonball, which are two vintage competitions. And so he's been super supportive of what we're doing, and he's actually going to run sweep for us, which is.
And you have women writers now who will be doing writing with you and doing the press along the way, which is super.
Yeah, they're our premier media sponsor. We have a couple different titles of
I'm looking down your sponsor list here. I perused the website, which I will also include that website in this post. So do I have to have a vintage motorcycle to do this?
Preferably. Yeah,
okay.
Preferably 35.
Well, see, that would leave me out right there, because I bought a 2020 Road Glide Special, brand new, spanking new, last year. So that would leave me out. But I don't have a vintage motorcycle. Now, do you have?
It's preferable.
Yeah, well, that stands to reason, because part of what you're trying to do is honor the legacy of the early women writers. And when I first started writing and doing research into motorcycles and so forth, I came across Bessie Stringfield. And she's my muse, and you see my bessieandme.com, and I ride in her spirit, because in fact, I do her penny tours. I toss the penny over the map, and wherever it lands, I hit that spot. So
that is awesome.
Well, there are so many women who came before us, and when I look at the photos and the odds that were against women writers in the early years, and the lack of equipment and clothing and things like that, we have come
not only
a long
that, but
way.
The roads. I mean, there were no paved roads when women started crossing the country on motorcycles, which the first one was in 1915. The only place that the roads might be paved were in the cities, in the metropolitan areas. After you got out, they were farm roads, and they were ruts and mud and whatever. And just to have to deal with that. I mean, I know women women and men. I'm not going to even say just women. I know riders who freak out when they see gravel.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of one of those.
I mean, I do, depending on what bike I'm on. If I'm on one of my old bikes, I'm like, bring it. But if I'm on my Road King, it's a little more top heavy. It's a heavier bike. And if I dump that sucker, I'm not going to be pleased, so I don't like gravel on that bike. And it's no shame. I mean, gravel is will put you down very quickly if you're not careful. It's nothing to be ashamed of. But I mean, compare that to these people who that's all they had. They had dirt, and gravel and grass and mud and whatever that they were riding on, and very few maps.
Very few maps, and there weren't a lot of places to stay. I know one of my favorite stories about Bessie Stringfield was, of course, she was a Black woman riding through the Jim Crow South, and she was refused lodging, refused places to eat, and she would sleep on her motorcycle. And boy, I haven't had to do that. So I appreciate all those women. I think it's great that the Riveter chapter has taken that legacy and trying to honor it. You have an approach to this. I know Route 66 Foundation is giving you the maps, correct? Because there's not much of the original Route 66 from Chicago on into Oklahoma.
Well, there's about 85% of the route is still there. But it's just not, a lot of it has been blended in with whatever road happens to be there. But actually, they're not giving us the maps. Actually, that's a GPS. That's a turn-by-turn GPS app,
Cool.
which is super cool because, how are you going to read a map on a bike?
Well, yeah.
And there's a lot of people who will like write stuff on their tank.
Oh, I'm still that person. Okay.
Yeah.
I am still a map person, and I've been known to take my Expo marker and put it on my windshield.
Yep. I know a lot of people do that. Me, I just like GPS. I mean, I started using it, and ever since I started using it, I'm like, I'm not going backwards,
Well,
if I have to run, if I run the chase, if I run Jason's chase, I'm gonna have to. But no, so it's a turn by turn. And the nice thing about that app is that it has all of the sites, all the waypoints marked, so that as you approach one, it says, such and such is coming up.
That's awesome.
And that way you're not doing a lot of U-turns on roads and trying to figure out, and like if you're in a group of people, you could easily pull over rather than, oh, we missed it, turn around and have 5 people turning around to go back to something.
Yeah.
So
now, is it a large group? Is everybody moving in a group, or how are you going to handle that? Do you have smaller groups with group leaders?
Well, my initial plan was to have everybody ride out of Chicago in a pack, and that's still the plan. I want to keep everybody in a pack, riding out of the city. And we're actually not going to be in the city that long. I went there and scoped it out, and I mean, maybe it's 20 blocks or something. It's really not that far. And so we'll stay together through there. And then coming into Santa Monica, there's about probably 15 or so miles that we're going to ride together in a pack coming in because of the visual. We're leaving together. We're coming into Santa Monica. Other than that, people can do whatever they want simply because they have the app. So I think that people will naturally find the groups they want to ride with, the people they want to ride with. Once we get further out into like Arizona, we're going to be on and off of 40 quite a bit because it's like frontage road and then 40 frontage road back and forth. And so what we'll probably do there is set up a couple of groups, like a faster group and a slower group, and we'll have leaders and sweeps on those groups so that people who want to stay together on the highway, especially if they're slower, like I'm either riding my 74 shovel or my 40 flathead, depends on, I'm taking both, and it just all depends on how reliable that flathead is and how comfortable I am with it. But, I don't like going over 60 miles an hour on the shovels. I don't even know what the flatty tops out at. It's a big twin. But I don't want to push it more than like 50, 55. So
now, do you plan on staying together each night? I mean, okay. And I know on your website, there's the application form for everyone. Does everyone pick up their own hotel, or do you have one package deal that everybody is purchasing? How does that work?
Well, we've got blocks of rooms already set up in our different cities where we're staying. We've got all that set up. And then once they get through the application and the registration process, then they'll get access. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to look yet, but that's one of the things that Jason Sims offered us is they have an online booking. They have their own travel agency through Jason Cannonball. So they're giving us access to that. So they're going to set all that up so people can just click through, because there's 15 dates that you have to book for. So they can click through, select their room, select everything they want, boom, done. And then they'll get all their confirmations back. But the hotel reservations will still be through each individual person.
Okay.
So they're responsible for booking and also canceling. If something happens and they need to cancel, they have to contact the hotels directly to cancel.
Right.
But yeah, so we're trying to make it as easy as possible because there are 15 stops. That's a lot of internet, checking, doing websites and calling, and some of them are like smaller mom and pop places that I don't even know if you can book them online. You have to call.
Right. Well, you want to stay in some of those iconic hotels that are
Mhm.
along Route 66, especially in Arizona. They have such cool. I've done Route 66 from Oklahoma City to Santa Monica,
Okay.
and so many cool things to
Yeah.
see. And it's just it's too bad that more people can't get out there and see some of those things. We go far too fast on the interstate, and
Yeah.
we just don't have that leisure time anymore. Is there going to
Well,
be a sweep van or something in
yeah.
case of breakdowns
Oh,
or?
yeah, especially with the vintage bikes. Yeah, Jason Sims from Chase and Cannonball is providing his sweep truck for that and truck and trailer. So he's going to be, tagging along. We also are going to have a mechanic
Okay.
along. She's going to tech the bikes in. She can do any repairs that need to be done. Whatever, if someone runs into trouble along the way. I mean, aside from like literally rebuilding a motor on the ground, I mean, that's not in her. I mean, she could do it, but that's not what I'm going to ask her to do. But she's very competent, so she's going to provide the mechanical support for the riders, so that people who do have the older bikes, I think that's what stops a lot of people from traveling on the old bikes, is the fact that they do need maintenance, and they
Of
do
course.
great. You know, I mean,
I'm
the new
I'm
bikes,
in
not that the new
I'm
ones don't, but
I'm just in awe of women who can wrench their own bikes. I just am in awe. I mean, I know the parts of my bike, and this is my third bike that I've owned, so I know what they sound like when they're running well and when they're not running well.
right.
But I just, first of all, I
Well,
have no.
half the battle is troubleshooting it. So
Yeah.
if you can at least troubleshoot it and locate where you think the problem is, you got a better shot when you go to the mechanic to say, hey,
Oh,
let's do it,
absolutely.
instead of
And
just, I have no idea, it's making a noise.
well, and as women, we do not want to roll into a dealership and say, I have no idea what's going
Yeah.
on.
Just, did you fix it? I mean, that's just a blank check right there.
Yeah, yeah, with your
I mean,
car
guy
or
or
your
girl,
bike.
but so one of the purposes for this ride, actually, there's a couple of purposes that I haven't really touched on. One is introducing women to the antique bikes,
Okay.
because if you don't know anything about them, if you've never really seen them other than maybe in a museum or whatever, or you see video of people kickstarting bikes or whatever, and if you think that's what they all are, it can be very intimidating.
Right.
But in terms of Harley, the Shovelheads and the Evos are considered antique bikes up through 87. So, and those are electric start. That will get you into an antique bike that's not something you have to kick. It doesn't have a generator on it. It feels very much like a brutish version of your modern bike. So it's very doable. So having women see, women on modern bikes see women on riding vintage bikes and going, oh, is that all there is to it? Well, can I take it for a ride around the parking lot? Sure. I mean, I'll let anybody ride my bike. If they're a good rider, if I know they're not going to dump it, I'll let them ride my bike. It's, whatever. So I want that. I want women to see that. I want women to see a female mechanic working on their bikes.
Absolutely.
I want to introduce women to this bigger world of motorcycling, and realize that there's so much that you can do. You just have to believe you can do it and do it, and actually having this support structure, these women around that have done it. I mean, I'm on a couple of pages, and there's one page of, it's like women who wrench, and I help help quite a few women on that site with electrical stuff, because that's where I'm best. I'm not the greatest wrench in the world, but I can do point to point electrical pretty well.
Oh, well, then you're the girl. If ever I have any electrical issues, because
electrical,
mechanics will tell you that's the hardest thing to
they don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And actually, the new bikes are harder. The old bikes are pretty easy.
Yeah,
because there's less.
There are so many electronics on my new Road Glide. It's mind-boggling. And for instance, I found out on a recent trip up to the mountains in November, if the battery is out dead on my key fob, the bike's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. And if it runs out in the middle of traffic on a busy road, it just stops. And that's what happened to me. I literally had to push it off to the side. Luckily, I was right in front of a CVS pharmacy. So I ran in there and got a battery for my fob.
And you have to get those weird flat batteries, right?
Yes, yes.
You know, you pray they have the right one.
And make sure you have a flathead screwdriver to get the whole thing apart. And it was very frustrating. I thought a key fob is just, what if I was in the middle of nowhere, which I've been before?
Yeah.
So now I have an extra battery on my bike too, because of that. And the other problem I'm having is the GPS they put on board those road glides. They are absolutely worthless, just worthless. I've already told my dealer that.
You're not the first person I've heard that.
Oh my God, they've remapped it 3 times. It still doesn't work. So I keep my iPhone with me, and it's got the, I got the mount on there, and I don't trust anything but, I have a Harley app, which will talk to my road glide, but I don't trust that either.
Yeah, they might get in a fight, and then you're going to end up in Arkansas or something.
I have plugged in a specific address, and it'll tell you left or right side of the road. I'm going right by the thing. My onboard GPS says it's here when actually it's sitting right over there. And I just said, this is it. I'm paid all this money for this brand new bike, and you think they could put a reliable GPS on it, but they can't.
Yeah.
So
I've been using my phone since 2017. I figured out how to hook it up and keep a charge to it and everything. And
I can do that.
And I've been doing that, and it served me well. I did have one little incident with my mount coming back from Milwaukee. My mount broke, and I was riding, and I was on the highway, and I saw my phone go wobble, 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 and it just did a beautiful pirouette and went flying off under a semi.
Oh no!
I'm like,
oh no! Did you have an OtterBox on it?
No. Oh, it wouldn't have mattered.
Okay. Well, no, I guess they landed under a semi. And I just recently bought a new helmet and had the Senna system installed and my logo put on it. Yeah. Nice. And I had the Senna system installed, and it talks to my phone, talks to me. I love it. I absolutely love it. So I'm okay with my electronics right now.
Well, and actually, we're working on. I'd like to get a sponsor to provide communications for us, because we're going to need comm, with that big of a group, and so we're looking for a sponsor for that. And we're also, if people want to pony up and sponsor a rider.
Yeah, I saw that on your website. You have a GoFundMe page.
Yeah. To
sponsor women riders.
Yeah, because we'd like to, because it's not an inexpensive affair.
No.
So, it's really, if you look at it and you look at the whole thing, especially if you split a room with somebody,
right,
it makes it very doable, and all the things that you get for the registration fee, and for the ride itself, and the fact that, what other time are you going to be able to do Route 66 with a group of women?
Right.
Have that support.
Like I said, I'm upset that I can't go, but I have done portions of it, but it'll be a fabulous ride, an absolutely fabulous ride. So what other opportunities are there for sponsorship? Are you doing a goodie bag or anything like that?
We have a swag bag that we're putting together. So we're doing that. We're actually working on events at each of our stops. Some of them are the longer days. When we have like a 300-mile day, we're not going to do anything in the evening, because everyone's going to be kind of wiped and their day is going to be spent. But we've got days that are shorter, so we're going to be doing some sort of event or meet and greet or something.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of that stuff going on. So we're looking for sponsorships for some of those things. I'm never going to turn down a sponsorship.
Yeah, and as soon as we end the recording, I'll talk to you a little bit about that. I would be interested in something like that.
Okay.
All right, so we've talked about I'm going to include your website where people
Yeah.
can go for the application form, and
Mhm.
we've talked about the dates. Is there anything else you want to add that would encourage women to sign up?
Um, Really, I think it's sort of a, chance of a lifetime to, to do this and do it this way. I mean, essentially all the planning is done. All you have to do is show up in Chicago with your bike and go.
Okay.
I mean, all the hotels have been booked, the route's been planned. We've got mechanics taken care of, we've got, sweep taken care of. We've got an awful lot of things covered that you would have to do yourself personally, and look, find all the hotels and, do all of do all that homework that we've already done. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. You just show up and ride.
And I would assume that most of these women are going to be experienced riders.
Everybody, all the applicants we've gotten so far have been, like 10,000 plus miles,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I
So
would hope so. It doesn't sound like a trip for a brand new rider.
no, it really isn't. And we kind of talked about that. Someone would have to have, to me, they would have to have 3 to 5,000 miles of experience to, just to, unless they're a really good rider, unless, some people come out of the gate and they're just really good at it. Or if they've had a lot of dirt bike experience, but they don't have a lot of street experience, that translates. I mean, there are a lot of exceptions to that rule. And there's always the people that have, oh my God, my first 3,000 miles, I was still a disaster. You know?
Yeah, I bought my first bike in January of '08. And in May, I took off up the East Coast towards Canada. And I had only been riding 5 months. And I tell you what, though, you gain experience on the road that you're not going to gain with somebody just telling you.
Exactly.
I
That's OJ key on the job training.
On the job training, and I started out with all the wrong gear. So I ended up in Augusta, Maine at a Harley Davidson store. I walked in looking like a drowned rat because I didn't have any rain gear or anything. It had turned cold. I was real close to hypothermia. I looked at the girl behind the counter and I said, I need gear. And it was her best sales day ever, let me tell you. And I walked out with what I thought was going to be okay. So, and I encountered rain, I encountered fog, I encountered semis blowing spray all over me. So that's
milled pavement, construction zones, dirt, gravel,
that too. Big cities.
You never know what you're going to run into on the road, when you're traveling. I mean, your local roads around here, if you see something, going on, you can, the roads, so I can scoot around here and I can avoid that. But when you're traveling, you don't know. So, I mean, yeah, your GPS can reroute you if you're running it, but, generally you just go.
Yeah.
So
it was the best experience, really. It woke me up to, that getting
what
on
you don't know.
what I don't know, and getting on the motorcycle is not just about looking good while you're sitting on it. It's like
that's about the last thing for me that it's about.
Well, anymore it is, but I was new. I thought that was part of it. And, when I look back on photos from that time and things like that, I thought, oh, what was I thinking? What was I thinking? But I've learned a lot. Like I said, I've done 49 states, 7 Canadian provinces. I'm on my 3rd bike, and I've learned a whole lot. So, well, listen, I'm going to end our conversation, the recording part of it, but I want you to stick around for the after show, as they say. And I wish you guys the best of luck, on this trip. Thanks.
Thank you.